Mike McCool here with the Royal Examiner. We're in our studios, and today with us is Deborah and Dale Cory. They are volunteers at the Warren Heritage Society here in Front Royal. We call that Warren County's best kept secret. So we're trying to get the word out and talk about the Warren Heritage Society. It is kind of a cool place. If you've ever been there, I suggest that you head over to Chester Street and check it out. But it has, just like the name implies, our county's heritage is in the walls of the buildings that are there. So let's talk about things at the Heritage, kind of a general overview first, and tell us what the Heritage Society is all about, and then we'll go dig into all the little things we want to talk about. How's that?
That works for me.
Okay.
I think one of the things that we need to get past is the name, Warren Heritage Society. My husband and I are from Alexandria, and we've only been here about 10 years. And we were just shocked how few people knew we even existed. It's at 101 Chester Street.
Right.
It's Warren County and Front Royal's collection of history. And for such a small county, it's a wonderful collection. It's an unbelievable collection. We're responsible for 3 houses. There's the Ivy Lodge, the Baltus House, and the Bellboyd Cottage. We also have the Archives, which is an absolute jewel. We have vellum deeds signed by Lord Fairfax. We have photograph collection, newspaper collection, genealogy. Rebecca Good was a professional genealogist, and she left us her entire collection of research. Laura Virginia Hale, which is we could have a show just on Laura Virginia
her.
Hale.
I remember her, yes.
A lot of the local people do. She started out collecting history and writing essays as a child. She did it the rest of her life. She had polio, so she was very limited in her ability to get out in the community, so the community came to her.
Right.
They brought her all types of documents. We have, it's just a wonderful collection, and if you're interested in history or researching your family genealogy, this is the place to come. And it's not just Warren County for the genealogy. Because we came off of Frederick and Shenandoah counties,
right.
We try and keep records from the surrounding counties. So we have Shenandoah, Frederick, Fauquier, Rappahannock, and a little bit of Clark, not as much Clark.
Right. No, we don't care about Clark.
Yeah. But we also have a store. The Stokes have filled one of our historic buildings. It's a little country store. We open that up during Festival of Leaves or special occasions. We have a smokehouse. It's just a fun place to come. The Ivy Lodge is where our offices are, and our museum and our gift shop. And that's open to the public. There's no charge to come in and look at the museum. And we have rotating exhibits. You come several times, you'll see different things.
Sure, yeah.
And we do charge for the tours, but it's not expensive.
It's more like a donation.
Yeah, it's like a donation. Money, unfortunately, we're a nonprofit, and so we're always in need of money.
And it's staffed by mostly volunteers.
Yes, Jim Heflin and I are the archivists, and we are paid. We share the job. Jim's there on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I'm there on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Right.
And we're open from 10 to 4, and we just would love people to come visit us.
When I tell people, they say, well, we talk about our Main Street being historic downtown. If you want to see history, it's at the Warren Heritage Society. I always tell people, the only history we have is right there on Chester Street. All that other stuff is just old.
Well, I was surprised to learn when I got here, you always think of Main Street as being the oldest street.
Sure.
But Chester Street is the oldest street, and it came about when they discovered Chester Gap.
Yep.
So
yeah. So see, we learn all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I know people really do like history. They might not admit it, but people do. Look, we got a whole TV channel just on history, right?
Yes.
I mean, so yeah, people do like it, and I think that the War and Heritage Society is always interesting. I have this column on the Royal Examiner. It's interesting things you need to know, and the War and Heritage Society falls into that category. I think we are publicizing, and we have a feature. War and Heritage Society has their own feature every week. We are publicizing. We're going back and reprinting the history of Virginia and Warren County that Patrick Ferris did on a few years ago, and had those printed. So we're redoing that and kind of recycling. And one thing good about history, you can repeat it.
Yes,
It's not too old. So I know that we're looking for volunteers. People are getting older, and some of your staff has left us, and we're looking for some new blood, so to speak, to kind of keep this message alive. So tell us about how someone becomes a volunteer at the society.
Well, first of all, if we have a new website,
right?
It's really
we'll
nice.
We'll put a plug in there for National Media Services.
Yes, they did a wonderful job. If you go to our website, you just type in Warren Heritage Society. And when it comes up, there's a tab, Join Us, and if you click on that, you'll see an application for being a volunteer. Or you can just come by and we'll hand you one. And if you come by, we'll give you a little tour of everything so you can see what we have.
So what kind of people are you looking for?
Well, I'm going to talk about archives and the docents,
right.
And my husband's going to talk about some of the things that he...
We're going to let Dale talk?
Yes, I'm going to let Dale talk.
Wait a minute.
In the archives, we would love to have people come help us with organizing and entering into the system the things that we have. We have... I can't even tell you how many things we have, and we have things we don't know we have.
And a lot of this is just on paper.
Yes.
So we're trying to get a digital record of these things.
Yes, we're scanning things, we're typing things. We have, like, an example would be something that Laura Virginia Hale had written. We're retyping that so that it's digitalized, and that just takes time. It's easy. It's interesting. It's always interesting. We have boxes, hundreds and hundreds of boxes. Over the years, we had different volunteers come in and enter it into the system, but it wasn't. They all did it differently.
Right.
So we're trying to go back and make sure that everything that's in the box is in the program.
Right, yes. And it's indexed properly and searchable.
Yes.
It's one thing to have the information, but when you can't find it,
you can't find it. Yes. So that's what we're working on. Also, we did not have good control of our materials collection. The materials collection would be the things that we use for the museum displays, the things we put in the houses to decorate, clothing, that type of thing. And we're trying to reorganize that, take proper care of those things. And so we need volunteers to help. Anyone who's interested in clothing or either sewing or historical clothing, we have this room full of clothes. And I'll be the first to admit, I don't know anything about them. I would not know a taffeta from a silk, But
there's somebody out here that knows that.
There's somebody that knows that, and I would love for them to come in and go in there and tell us
what. Take charge of that.
Yeah, take charge of it. It can be yours.
That's
you can own it.
There you go. That's one. When we mentioned the Festival of Leaves, I don't know if people really realize that's really a major fundraiser for the society, and that that's been going on for a lot of years.
Yes.
And I know that you're really trying to reorganize that festival for this year.
Yes, we're trying to bring it back to more the way it was, that the community's more involved in it. We're going to try and put on a play to get the community to take parts in it, and we want to get it back to the community.
Right,
it kind of slipped away from
us. It does. Things like that happen as people change. But I know Dale is a member of the Sons of the Revolutionary War. Did I get that right?
Sons of the American.
Excuse me.
There are two different organizations.
There are different organizations. Except when I talk about the parade and of course this cosplay and dressing up but that's really history, and you'd be surprised how people just love it. I mean,
Yes.
they just really love it.
Yes.
Now I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But that's part of the at the festival, and I know these closing's important, and just trying to. I know your organization. We just did the program on the Dr. Warren. The plaques that are in our schools, and just making people aware of our history. And I think it's vital that people take an interest in things like that, and people that really want to get involved. This is the place to start. I know you're there in the society. You're there at the Warren Heritage Society. I'm sure you can find out if their ancestries go back to the American Revolutionary War.
can help you with that.
So we've got all sorts of things like that. When your group was in here and we did some interviews, they all are tied. They've traced their genealogy back,
Yes, they do.
and know that when you know stuff about your relatives, and you think this one person. Look like Dr. Warren, friend. That one person. Look at the effect it's had on millions of people. It's just amazing. I mean, that we don't really think about that. Of course, think about Noah. There you go. Let's go way back, right? But seriously, it's the history of our county. I think we should take more interest in it and do it. You do have that gift shop, and I remember Susan Jeffries really did a lot. She's left the society, but she did a lot of work in there, getting that thing organized, and people do. You bring school age kids, and everybody goes through there. It's interesting. So let's talk a little more about this archive. Or let's let Dale talk for a few minutes, then we'll come back to the archives.
Well, it's one thing that a lot of the people don't realize, or they don't think about, is the history here in Warren County is a lot older than a lot of people think. A lot of times when I first got here, my thing was, gosh, it seems like history starts and ends with the Civil War.
Right.
But, the town's founded in, 1735, I believe it was. There were people coming down here a few years before that when they, migrated down from Pennsylvania. So our history goes back to the colonial era. And this play that they're going to have is a written history of Warren County. And my group, the Sons of the American Revolution, we're going to come dressed up in our outfits and be the characters for the colonial period. But they surely would like to have people come in and help them get through the other periods, get us all the way up to modern times. I don't know for sure where the play cuts off. But, it's a great time to come out and say, let me be part of this extravaganza that we're going to push on out here. So that's an important thing. And history down there, as you look at the buildings we've got at the Heritage Society, we've got what they call the oldest house on the oldest street. And that's Balthus House. Now, it's not the oldest house in Alexandria. Alexandria. Yeah. Front Royal.
That's history.
That's history. Yeah, it's not the oldest house in Front Royal, but it is probably, I think that's either the second or the third oldest house that's alive in Front Royal right now. And that house was built in the late 1700s. They're not exactly sure when, 1780 to 1790, somewhere in that time frame. And it's got 2 additions on it. So it takes you up through history because there was an addition put on in the 1830s and one in the 1860s. And you walk through history when you walk through this house. They've got an outdoor kitchen behind there, which is set up just like in the colonial era and the early 1800s. What we're really trying to aim for there is the 1835 kind of time frame. But you do get to walk through history as you go through this. And, as you go through the Heritage Society, you get to go from starting with the colonial time all the way up, because right now we've got an exhibit on World War II there at the Ivy Lodge, so you can walk through almost 200 years of history just by going through the buildings.
Right. Think of the people that lived in that house.
Well, there's some very important people that actually owned that house. There was some people connected with the Revolutionary War. Thomas Buck, who most people in the county understand who Thomas Buck was. He was a very important figure back at that time frame. He owned the house for a while. We had living in there was one of the Edwards guys who married one of the LeHue girls. He lived in there for a while. Our weatherman, he lived there he's the one that sold the house. Kemp Miller.
Yes, I remember him living there, yeah.
So it does have kind of a real colorful history. And up in the Balthus house during the Civil War, of course, there's that famous time when one of the Confederate soldiers hid up in the attic.
Right.
So you can go in there and find all these neat little stories about it. The playhouse that's back behind there, it's a building that's got lattice walls on it. That was built by some soldiers that had returned from the war. They were looking for work, so Mr. Balthus had them build a playhouse for his kids. That general store that was moved in there that Deborah referred to, that is not open very often. That's basically because we're so understaffed.
Sure.
But when you walk into that, it's like walking into a general store 100 years ago. And there are even some items there that really show a lot of interest. We have a still in there that was left over that we're going to end up putting in one of our exhibits.
We're going to try to cruise in on the, what is it, the Brews and Blues Festival.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to have
the real brew.
We're going to have the real
the
stuff.
history of liquor in Warren County.
Well, we have a beer museum. We might as well have a liquor museum.
Yeah, well, we're going to give a little history about that,
Yeah.
and we've got a bell there that came from the Aaron plantation that they used to ring to call the hands in from the field, and the word is when the bell rang, the horses would stop. Now, I was told it's not quite that, but it's an interesting
Sure,
story.
it's a good story.
So we've got the smokehouse there, and even though the smokehouse is not original, it was built from logs from buildings that came from Chester Street.
Right.
And a lot of the building inside the Balthus house are parts that came from different houses on Chester Street, which we have a fascinating book up there that people can procure if they would like to get it on Chester Street.
Lord Virginia Hill wrote.
Right.
Lord Virginia Hill wrote this book, so it's a very good one. We do also need people to help come volunteer and help us maintain these buildings. It's a tremendous amount of work goes into maintaining old buildings.
It is.
They don't have all the good weatherproofing stuff that you would find in buildings, and we need painting. We need people to help clean the buildings.
Some of these buildings are held together just by the paint that's on the wall.
Yes.
Pretty much, and that's literally true. I'm working on one now on the Balthus house that has a problem just like that I'm trying to overcome.
Yeah.
So there's some woodwork can be done. Right now we've one of the paving sidewalks up there that's they're just brick walkways that are put in. We're putting that in to help make that better. We're going to make it more accessible to handicap to get into the Balthus house. So all the buildings need work. We got porches that need renovation. We need help with the gardens. The garden club comes in most of the time on Thursdays in the good weather, and they do a wonderful job. But we always need help to come up and assist them too. So there's an awful lot of stuff up there that we can use people. If you're interested in history, this is the place to go.
Well, it sounds like you have something for all ages. I mean, if you're physically able to do some things, or mentally able to do things, or young hands to old hands. It sounds like if you really want to, if you have any interest at all in looking for a good project and helping your community, this sounds like the place to start at the Warren Heritage Society.
And you don't have to make a big commitment. I mean, if you only have an hour or two a week,
You'll take it.
We'll take it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and some of the things
Because once you get hooked on this, you'll be spending a little more time. That's the thing. When people really get into it, hooked on history. Well, there you go. Your husband, you hooked him in, didn't you?
Yeah, and even things like the transcribing, you could do that at home.
Exactly.
Just I'll give you a thumb drive.
That's right. Exactly.
But let's see. If the clothes, like if you want to dress up as a docent, we'll train you to be a docent. It's very easy. We'll give you clothes to dress up if you want to dress up, but you don't have to.
That really adds a lot.
Yeah,
to
it does.
Though.
It really does.
That puts the icing on the cake, I think.
It's fun. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, once
Living
you've done
history.
It,
I mean, it's
but once you've done it a couple of times and you get out there and you see the interest that people have, it really opens your eyes and what will work. We see that, of course, with the Sons of the American Revolution. Where we go out and dress up, and we went to last year's Festival of Leaves, and a lot of people come up there and they comment that, and they have the people dressed out from periods from the colonial period all the way up to the Civil War.
Right.
And
steal that line from the History Channel: "Making history come alive." Right.
There you go.
Yes.
And it's true. It is really true. It's amazing. The place. It's just a shame, like you say, that things do go up and down and cycle through the help, but it all really boils down to just getting enough people to help keep the thing rolling.
Yeah.
And I know that you have a board of directors and people are on there, but they're all getting up in age, and which we all are. I know people say, well, I tell them all, my next birthday I'm going to be 70. Whoever thought you're going to be that old? I can remember the year 2000. I thought, oh, I will never live to see that.
But I think
that's gone and gone.
I think the word society seems to throw people. I think
maybe they think of it as an upper crust type thing. Maybe,
and that's at the beginning when I said it's the name of it. I think seems to maybe put some people off. It's not a good old boys club.
Right.
It's not a bunch of stuffy people. It's your neighbors. It's the people who live here and people that really want to take care of your history. And we would love for you to come join us.
Yeah, that's great. So you're looking for people to help on the Festival of Leaves. So if you just
Yeah.
want to help on that, if you like
just
those,
that one day. I mean,
stand
if you
around
could do
and
that.
direct people to park their car. I mean, there's literally
Yes.
anything and everything. You can find something for someone
Yes.
to do.
Yes.
Well, if they want to help with the exhibits, and that doesn't take a lot. If you wanted to put an exhibit in there, what you would do is come over to the archives and tell them, say, I'd like to, this is the exhibit we want. They go do through and research and pull stuff for you, and then it's just a matter of taking them down and put them up. And but the neat thing about that is you build something, you look at it, and you can come in and say, I did that.
I did that. That's right.
And I know more about history now because I did that.
Or my family, my great grandmother, did that, and
Yes.
and so all sorts of things. I just think it's like you got everything for anything and everything needs to be done, just like in your own home. You
Yes.
can do it, but it's great. And I do know I've met a lot of people that work there, and they really are very helpful. Your guys in the archive department have always been helpful, and we've been able to gather a lot of information for stories. And of course, we're trying to do our part by getting the information out there
Yeah.
to
And you're
to
doing
our
a great
community.
job.
So we want to continue to do that and do more. And last year we did a calendar. Mark here did a calendar up for the society. That was a great thing. So I'm trying to twist the arm to do that again, and we'll be hopefully started earlier this year.
Yes.
And there's all sorts of great things. But people love those kind of history. We did the calendar of. We had Tim Tewalt draw like 12 of our old restaurants. There was Nick's Diners and the Diner and all these things that are gone, and people, I have them hanging on the wall downstairs, and people come in and say, I remember that place. I remember that. I ate there. My mother used to take me there. And so it comes alive. Those memories are really something, and it's the same thing at the Heritage Society as we look back even farther than, a few years ago. It's amazing that we have. And so I say, if you think we have a historic downtown, it's really on Chester Street.
Well, one thing we can always say to people, just like they say on television, come on down.
Come on down.
Come
There's
visit us.
Come down and come on down and visit us and sit out on the porch and
Yeah.
it's
Come in and chat. And
Yeah.
if you see you want to do something, fine. If you don't, come in and chat anyway.
that's right. You
We're-
might be surprised.
Yeah, we're not really high pressure in that. I mean, it's like I have a thing I say. I'll ask you twice, and after that, I'm not going to bother you anymore. Because
Yeah.
if you're interested, you're going to want to do it.
When Dale asked you twice, he it's a long twice. I say that with love, Dale.
Yes.
But it's true. There's just so much to do, and a lot of people don't know where to start. And I think the first thing is just come for a visit and see what's there.
Yes.
Bring your children, bring your family, and come down and just do a little look-see.
Yes.
And walk through it's amazing the things that are there, and that things that are in our lifetime that we can remember, and brings back those history, and as we dig deeper and deeper, it's just how things were just tied together. We just kind of forget about that. We kind of forget about history, and so we keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
Unfortunately.
Well, she's got some wonderful displays in there about tragedies that hit the county.
Exactly, I remember seeing that.
And she got a real nice setup in there about fire and flood and
Yes.
storms
Lizards
and
and-
lizards.
yeah.
When we see our gazebo area, but that came about due to a great fire we had not that long ago.
No.
But look what it did. It's like the phoenix, it come out of the fire, and we really
Revitalized the town.
it revitalized Front Royal, and our downtown area. It just made a great community area that people do realize it, and people think it's been there forever, and it really is it's fairly new.
Yes.
And it's like our train station. We see the caboose sitting there, but I can recall when I first moved here in the 70s, we had a train come to town, and they backed it in there, backed it out, and people came from Alexandria. That was the big thing. They bring in a steam thing, and they would drive it up here on the weekends during the summer, and people would get off and flood downtown with hundreds of tourists. Those kind of things have gone away, but they're it's interesting.
But it's alive down here on Chester Street.
It's on Chester Street.
Yeah,
You can
yes.
relive it.
Yeah,
Was there anything else we want to talk about? We got a long list here of things, but I think we've covered about everything. But
I think
We
so.
pretty much got it. And
I see one thing we talk about is living history interpreter. I went over to your neighbor at the Warren Rifle Confederate Museum, and one time it was at the Heritage Society, where we had characters come from history in their period garb, and they actually get into the character and really don't break character. And even though, and then they start talking about history, and they into their character, and it's amazing. There was a colonel from the Civil War, and he was sitting there in the chair, and we were talking, and there was maybe a dozen or 15 people showed up, and of course it's on the Royal Examiner. We videotaped it. You can go and watch it. But in fact, it went on for over an hour. It was supposed to be like a 15-minute talk, and he started going, and then people started asking questions. And he said, "Well, do you want to hear some more?" And everybody's, yeah. So it just went on, and he was able just to go and just it just sounded like you were right there, and he was very intriguing. You know, it just brought you into the history, and you do that kind of thing there as well.
Yes.
And that's a great. It's really a neat thing how people can do that.
Well, you can learn it easy. Well, it's not necessarily easy to learn, but you can learn how to do that if you've got the desire.
Yeah.
And if you want to get into a character of sorts, which of course you saw when we were handing the plaques
Sure.
out, we get some of us will fall into that character, and you just stay
Sure.
there, and then you can get wrapped up in it because you get everybody involved with
And
you.
I've seen the little kids asking you questions, and I don't know if it was you. I think you told them, "Well, I'm old. I was born in 1794, whatever it was." You know?
1752, yeah. And
He said, "Well, you are old."
yes. So it's a lot of fun to do that stuff. Being involved with history it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because-
and that's something that, you can either come and be like a guest speaker and,
Sure.
and do that, or Festival of Leaves. Down on our property, we have a lot, like we had a young man who was a blacksmith, and he made things for people.
Right.
We can do that. We can have you set you up on our property for Festival of Leaves, and you can do whatever
Demonstrate
it is. Yeah,
different
demonstrate.
things.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people in Warren County that do a lot of things that
Yes.
we just don't know about.
Yes.
And it's just like we have our recording studio here, and make our CDs, and musicians, and it's just amazing that come out of the mountains and the hills, and how many musicians we have in a 50-mile radius of Front Royal. I mean, hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds, and it's just little thing. And artisans. We're on the artisan trail. We have all these artisans that are out and about in our community that we're trying to make people aware of, and it's just. It starts at the Warren Heritage Society. We leave society off. We'll just call it at Warren Heritage.
Yeah, Warren Heritage. But you could call it Warren History.
It is, and it's right there. It comes alive. All right.
Well, come
I
on
think
down.
it's great. Appreciate Deborah and Dale to come in and talk to us. If you have any interest at all, even if you don't have an interest, go on down to the Warren Heritage Society. It's on Chester Street. You can't miss it. It's a little white house down there on Chester. The big sign is
Big sign.
Warren Heritage Society, Ivy Lodge, right on the main street. So it's a great place to take your kids just to learn a little bit about our community and do it. And check out the website, warrenheritagesociety.org, isn't it? Or
Yes.
I think it is, warrenheritagesociety.org. All right, appreciate it.
Thank
Again,
you.
come back anytime.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.